And a warm welcome and a very big thank you to each and every one of you, the 6,000 plus supporters of my Change.org petition. Ask why the Department of Health is refusing to investigate elderly care at Cheltenham General. Now let me warn you in advance that this recording is not going to be slick throughout, nor ultra professional, as I may well falter at times, perhaps quite badly. But what I can assure you is that it comes at you in the very best of good faith and from the heart. Now the recording is being made in order to update you on the events of Thursday, March the 14th, 2024, when, as many of you will already know, I held another protest coinciding with the Gloucestershire Hospital's NHS Foundation Trust's latest public board meeting against the backdrop of Cheltenham General, together with the Gloucestershire Royal Hospital, situated some 8 miles away, one of the Trust's major constituent parts. Now, as ever, the protest was confined to the public highway, the footpath running alongside the meeting venue, and was definitively outside of the perimeters of the hospital's own grounds, which, as it turned out on the day, was just as well, for another different protest taking place later the very same afternoon and on the same spot culminated in the aggrieved party having the police called to arrest him on grounds that extended to harassment. For myself, at least, another day, another protest. Same old protest uniform, red coat, white beard, that I've dug out once more for the camera today. But, as always, a new placard. So many different issues within this thread to bring to public awareness, so very many different relevant issues. Now, the photograph on the petition update that routed you here was of the placards that I displayed during my first protest back in October. Behind me you can catch a glimpse of the placard that I hoisted the other Thursday, by now urging the Trust to use its powers to act to secure better outcomes for its elderly charges, the Trust's most vulnerable group of patients, by dint of so many of them unfortunately no longer enjoying full mental capacity. Now my leaflets on the day ran along the same lines, but incorporated also from the text of the petition my faithful reassertion that open, vigorously, vehemently and unmistakably expressed opposition and resistance to enforcement of end of life at Cheltenham was being denied and thereby being covered up by this Trust as far back as 2017. So my leaflets on the day included everything that was and is on the petition on the placard behind me. And here is one of those leaflets. Now, what I've centred on is calling into question the Trust's own long-standing maxim, best care for all, as I genuinely do not believe that that is what has always been afforded to elderly dementia patients pitching up in the orbit of certain of this Trust Care of the Elderly wards over the years. This Trust should always have had the ways and means to reduce the frequency of invocation of end of life in relation to the numbers of deaths that has been presenting so disturbingly incongruously at Cheltenham down the span of no fewer than 8 separate years, and which now appears to be being allowed to transfer across to Gloucestershire Royal also. It should not be beyond the wit of this Trust now to identify and establish the cause and to do something positive about it, to take some positive action. Unless, of course, we are to assume that this has always been the Trust's own chosen path down which to go. Which, as I am sure that would be the very last thing this Trust would wish for or allow the public to think, is the reason why it is for an independent external investigation that I continue to press. Finally, my media release on the day read as follows. Today's protest is to bring to the attention of the general public, in the interests of their own safety, the issue of whether the numbers of their elderly loved ones failing to survive admission to certain of distrust care of the elderly wards would be fewer, were those wards focus on maintaining treatment for the elderly rather than seeking to withhold or withdraw it, to be greater. For many of those elderly loved ones will no longer have full mental capacity for one reason or another, such as dementia, and their own so-called best interests in terms of what levels of treatment to allow them, or whether even to afford them any treatment at all, will therefore be being decided not by them themselves, nor even in accordance with their own family's wishes, which is what it is so important for the public to grasp, but by the hospital. And not always, if I may put this as diplomatically as I ever could, along the most clear or consistent or objective of lines. Now today I am requesting that after years of stalling, this trust finally pass for independent and therefore external investigation, whether over the winter of 2016 to 2017, on one particular care of the elderly ward at Cheltenham General, this was the case. For all the statistics and figures ever prized from this trust, at times unwilling grasp, would appear to show that it was, and very much so. Very, very much so. And here I am at the end, and I've lost the thread. Well, I did tell you, didn't I? 4 questions bear answering, finally. First of all, what can the Trust tell us about what was happening at Cheltenham over the winter of 2016 to 2017? Secondly, what is the Trust prepared to divulge now as to what may be happening across the Gloucestershire Royal also? Thirdly, can the public be assured that all linkage back from now to that earlier deeply suspect period for negative outcomes for elderly patients, many without full mental capacity, has been severed since? And fourthly, the outstanding question, if not, why not? Now I ask you to await the normal email update based on this recording tomorrow, simply to look at the leaflet. Now I thank you all for your time and attention, and now, until the next protest, I can get rid of the white beard.
The time on this elapsed on the stopwatch?
The time elapsed on the stopwatch is 22:19.
Right. Now I can turn around towards the screen, Patty?
Yep.
Okay, and just as soon. That's okay. And so we have come to the end of the third question and answer segment, and thereby concluded the polygraph test. 39 questions in all based around the truthfulness of the evidence statement I had given. Look at my prompt because I've lost the thread. It's okay. It's not meant to be professional, this, and slick. Right. My evidence statement I shall now read aloud whilst Patty determines the results of the test. Right. And I can still move.
Yep.
I, Keith Smith, hereby submit for verification by polygraph testing the following signed account of the circumstances in which, in the early hours of Monday, July the 12th, 2021, I disturbed an out-of-hours GP who had left his patient's, my mother's, bedside in the middle of his visit to spend the next 50 minutes away from her in his car. It focuses on the doctor's denial of those circumstances to investigators. I state that when I went outside in search of the doctor to force him, rather than continue his by now 90-minute wait for pickup from a totally unresponsive lower priority ambulance call-out line, to deal with a 999 operator I had now contacted myself and had available on the phone, I had to leave my mother's bedside to pass him. The doctor's car was parked directly in front of our door, sideways on, passenger side nearest, and just 5 paces away. The view from that door to the passenger seat was completely unobstructed, and the interior of the vehicle illuminated by a street light no more than 6 paces in front of the bonnet. From the front doorstep, the car appeared empty and its occupants to have decanted elsewhere. No one was visible above the bottom level of the window frames. No occupant was visible in the car, even when I reached the passenger window and looked across to the driver's seat at eye level. I had to look down into the well of the vehicle to locate the occupants. The driver-cum technician was reclined in his seat to a degree only now to be visible to me. The doctor's seat was reclined as well, to the same level as the driver's, to a degree for the doctor also only now to be visible to me. Most certainly not, as claimed, only to a degree sufficient to accommodate a laptop as he sat. By contrast, no lap remained. The doctor was not sitting but lying. I found the driver with his eyes shut. I found the doctor with his eyes shut. Contrary to claims, no actual work, other than perhaps letting the call-out line continue to ring out unanswered, was being done by either at that point. Over the course of his 50-minute absence out in the car, the doctor did not at any point return and monitor his patient's condition at her bedside. Immediately prior to earlier injection with morphine, these exchanges took place. I asked the doctor, "Is this safe?" The doctor made no reply. I then immediately asked, "Can it depress her breathing?" The doctor now replied, "It's what we give for pain." I then immediately warned the doctor, "She's had bad reactions to morphine before." The doctor merely replied, "Everyone has bad reactions to morphine." That is the end of my signed evidence statement, and I shall now inquire whether the results of the lie detector test are ready.
Yes, they are, and I could tell you, Keith, that regarding the questions about the truthfulness of your evidence statement, I could tell you that, yes, you are telling the truth regarding your evidence statement and everything written therein.
Thank you.
And you have passed the test.
I've passed the test. Thank you very much. Well, it would have come as a damn surprise not to have passed the test. Was I anxious about the outcome? No, not in the slightest, not at all. For I had given 100% accurate report, and General Medical Council note, report, not an account, which is the terminology you apply in order to devalue evidence you do not wish to use. I had given 100% accurate report of the circumstances in which I disturbed the doctor that night. Instead of seeking to force through findings based on differences in status and thinking themselves able to project corresponding differentials in levels of witness reliability, credibility, believability. Let the General Medical Council and the doctor, in terms of evidence validation, match this. So what is the message you, the viewer, can take from this experience? If you should ever be required, or indeed wish yourself to take such a test, the way to pass a polygraph test is to tell the truth, as I have done here today unfailingly. General Medical Council, please take note. Goodbye.